morning, everyone. Welcome to our next community AMA. Thank you so much, everyone who's joining in or might be watching this video a little bit later. A little bit later in the week compared to usual. So it's Thursday morning Australian time at the moment. We pushed it back by a few days, mostly because some of our team members were flying back from the US after a very productive trip over there for a few different conferences and such. And I went and screwed up everyone's schedule this week by being annoying and having surgery. But yeah, feeling much better, and yeah, the whole team's back on deck and ready to go. So for anyone joining us for the first time, my name is Marty, also known online as Alcatraz. I am the lead designer at Raini Studios, working on our flagship title, The Lords of Light, which, in my very biased opinion, is one of the best digital trading card games out there. We'll quickly just go around the room. So, Draz.
G'day guys, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm Draz, just a community member, just helping the guys out by keeping an eye on the chats and checking any questions and things like that as they come up. Thank you.
Hey. Hello, everyone. I am Hitbox. I am the lead art, and yeah, I do everything art related on RTLOL and Raini Studios.
Hey guys, I'm Artkin or Chris. I'm one of the co-founders and managing directors of Raini. And yeah, here to answer any questions that the other guys can't. As a bit of a heads up, I am a bit sick, maybe with a cold or something, so I'm just here for if and when.
Cool. Okay. I think Chris's mic's just dropped out there, but yeah, yeah, definitely hoping you're feeling better very soon. Yeah, obviously bit of jet lag and yeah, many weeks over in the US. So the team attended DICE and Mobile Growth Summit in Vegas. It was almost 2 weeks ago now. And then from there started in Florida, went to New York, went to Vegas. From there, we went to San Francisco, had some very productive meetings there. And just one of the cool things as well, I was saying this the other day in our Telegram chat, it was obviously being a very fully remote team, we don't always get the opportunity to collaborate in person. I know at least, I think 2 of the nights in San Francisco, myself, Artkin, and Mindspheres, or JJ, we're docs now. I can say names. We're like up till like 5 a.m. in the morning in a lobby in a San Francisco hotel, just banging out new features and doing a bunch of really cool work in person. We're also at ETH Denver as well. So a lot of very, very good networking there. Got to meet up with some of our strategic partners in person. And yeah, a very productive trip overall. Yeah, we're all back in Australia now. We may have some other conference stuff coming up very, very soon. I'm not sure if we can announce that yet, Artkin, but I'll yeah, as soon as we're able to talk about any upcoming plans, we'll definitely do that.
Yeah, we'll probably do a proper formal announcement before the end of the week. Let's just get that in this week.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, definitely other, just I guess a bit of this week news. Version 096 of RTLOL is going through its final testing at the moment. Just some final little bugs and polish sort of features getting in there. But we're very confident that build will be out by the end of the week as well. And obviously that will have all of the 7 Deadly Sins cards enabled for play as well. So the team's been doing a lot of testing on that, a lot of fun decks, a lot of interesting games coming out of that. So very, very keen to get that in the hands of the community and see how that goes. Yeah, Draz, I think we only had the one question so far.
Yeah, nothing in the chats or anything, just the one that's popped up in the chats here. I could find my window. I'm just having a look at that Mobile Growth Association. That's an interesting conference there that you guys would have gone to there.
Fantastic. Oh yeah.
That's for the mobile side of the game, is it?
So it's obviously like we've said we're planning on doing a mobile version, so a lot of cool stuff there. A big part of that as well, though, with Mobile Growth Summit, it's very much focused on user acquisition and user engagement and retention. So very important parts for any what we call live service game. Which is obviously what RTLOL will be at launch. Live service basically meaning that the game kind of like unlike a traditional game where you make the game, you put it in a box, it sits on a shelf at GameStop or something like that. Live service games, the journey kind of starts when the game actually goes live, and then we get to work with our community, adding new features, new cards, new expansions, sort of having the game grow and evolve with our community over time. So much more like modern, or very very much like what a lot of mobile titles do. Hence, Mobile Growth Summit. But yeah, and a big part of that obviously is looking at ways that we can grow our player base, and not just grow as in like have people download the game and try it out, but how do we actually engage them? How do we actually make sure people want to come back day after day, week after week, to obviously hit our goal that we've talked about, of making this a 10-year game.
And 1 million users in the first year.
Yeah, I mean,
if possible. I mean, that's fantastic.
I mean, that's the interesting thing. Getting 1 million users, like downloads for a game, is what we call a vanity metric. It actually doesn't count for anything. Like, because you can have 1 million people download it today, and then if they don't come back tomorrow, well, cool, who cares?
Yeah.
The goal is, how do we get 1 million sticky users? How do we get 1 million people to come in, have a really great time, and keep playing day after day, and allow us to do some really amazing things.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you want to we'll quickly smash through these questions, and then I believe Hitbox is going to pretty much put me on mute for the rest of the AMA and show us some really really cool stuff.
Yeah, looking forward to that. It's going to be great. Okay, just a couple of questions. One from Myzen. Will you be able to have your cards on a hardware wallet and still use them to play in the game?
The short answer there is yes, with a little asterisk at the end. So you will need to be able to connect that wallet originally to the game. So you will need to be able to like sign a transaction to like basically verify the wallet is yours. As long as you are able to do that with and most hardware wallets do support this, that's fine. But I'm just covering myself because I'm sure there's a bunch of different hardware wallets out there that we haven't tested specifically. But yeah, as long as you can connect a hardware wallet, sign a transaction so we know that the wallet is yours. Once you've done that, then yeah, any cards that are in that wallet are good to use, obviously. So, yep, that won't be an issue.
And just one more from Ashhole. Is the new update just adding the 7DS cards or also the Kanpai and the Chubbies?
So 096 will just be the 15 new cards from 7 Deadly Sins. At this stage, there are 3 promotional cards planned for 097, which is Kanpai Pandas, Chubbyverse, and an Avalanche promotional card as well. So those 3 cards should be dropping in 097.
Cool. I'm not sure if you want to answer this one from GM Gaming there. What's the plan after the full game release, or save that for a summary after Hitbox?
That's a question that could go an hour by itself. The plan after full game release is I'm going to go sit on a beach in Hawaii and drink a margarita. And yeah, I'll send you all photos.
Yeah, nice. All right, that's it.
Cool. Hitbox, this is your show, man. Go nuts.
All right. Thanks, guys. Let's do it. Hey, everyone. Hitbox here. Bleed Art here to talk about all things art. Second AMA. We were gonna talk about art in the first AMA that I joined, but we had so much stuff to cover regarding the 7DS. So I'm back. And let's get things started. Oh yeah, if anyone has any questions, send them through. And Draz, Marty, and Artkin, if you guys also have some questions or want to chime in, please feel free.
I was just going to say, did you want to maybe just give the quick your like background story, just for anyone who may have not tuned into that previous AMA that you were with us for?
Oh, yeah, right. Lead art at RTLOL. Previously, I've worked in games, films, and TV. Previously worked at Pinewood Studios and Fox Studios in Sydney. Bunch of games and worked on a bunch of films. And what is exciting about like kind of working on RTLOL is I get to merge all those experiences together. So it's like, you know, working on film, you're all about making things look really, really, really good. And working in games, you have to make things work good and perform well. So yeah, I get to merge both of those worlds together, and it's super fun and super exciting. Cool. So let me share some. Let me share some things. I hope everyone can see.
Yeah, I'll put that on the screen for you. There you go.
Cool, cool, cool. So what I want to do is kind of go back in time and go through the evolution, the art evolution of RTLOL. So I guess there's no better place to start than concept and design, because I guess that's where everything starts, with an idea. And let's go through here. So I found this, and this is a little bit before my time, but here is like an early sketch of what the RTLOL board could have been. Like we can see, what I find really interesting here is like you can see a lot of the placements of like the player hero and the opponent hero. You can see that the initial sketch had a portal on opposing sides. We can see that that the fantasy jungle, the early ideas of that was there on the left-hand side, and we got Ethereum City on the right. But we got all the working pieces in there. And here we're designing the early concept and kind of looking to iterate and refine that idea. But yeah, it's we can even see that nuclear power plant on the right there, which is really cool. Let's hop over to the next one.
I was say, Arkin, do you know who did that original design? Because that was before. This is way before my time as well.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure the way this came to exist was me describing it to JJ or Mindspheres and him just putting it all together in, I don't know, Photoshop or MS Paint or something like that to send across to the proper game board designer as a reference.
Yeah, nice, cool.
Nice.
I'm just super curious because this is, as I said, this is way before even I started working on the game.
Yeah, we're exploring this together.
Yep.
All right. Cool. And this is something else that I found that I thought was really interesting. So here, like, I would look at this and I'd say like this is a bit of a mood board. We have like a little bit of references here about of games and themes that we like, and it looks like the board has also progressed a bit. We can see like the deck cards there. The game board layout has changed a bit. It's been refined a bit more. The portal is opposing each other, and the gems are on opposite ends of the board. So yeah, a little bit more progress on the board, which is exciting.
Yeah, so this one was interesting because it was referencing a bunch of the biggest trading card game competitors and just trying to take inspiration of the best bits we liked from them, and avoiding the parts that we thought were suboptimal, and then creating our own like ideas and adding them into the mixing pot.
Yeah, and I guess that like with any great early design concept phase, you're drawing inspiration from from media and things that you like, and trying to create something of your own. And that's definitely something we're trying to do here at RTLOL. And for everyone that's playing, I hope that you can really feel that. There's a lot of love that goes in, and a lot of thought behind all the decisions that we make behind the scenes. So this is one of the earliest things that Mindfizz sent to me. So it was a very early mock-up of the board, and we can. What's interesting is we can see some of those early concepts come in into a render form. The trees are coming a little bit more alive now. We've got the Ethereum city on the right. There's this board in the center. I remember, like, when I first saw this, I was like, oh, this is really cool. One thing I did feel that the camera perspective made you feel like you were like skydiving. Like I felt like I was like hurling to the ground. So we changed the camera for that, and I think that was a really great choice there. But I believe this was made in Unreal Engine as just a mock-up. But most of all of our dev currently is in Unity.
I'll also just say on that one, that was the first version of the game board we got back from the game board designer after sending him the notes and I guess the brief. And JJ sent it to me, and my immediate response was like, "Where the hell do we fit the minions? Where do things go?" And I think there was a breakdown in communication with like the I guess how big you needed the actual playable game board to be in the middle to facilitate, if we've got 14 minions plus a bunch of other stuff, you don't want it looking like the majority are on stable ground and then one is off just hovering above like a tree off the game board. So that was like an interesting experience just to have to go back and get the right dimensions of the game board from there.
Yeah, and I'd say, like, that's all part of the creative process. Trying things out, things not working, and trying again, iterating on what you have, and taking what's good and taking it to the next part. But yeah, as Arkin mentioned, if you look at this image here, you can see that it's almost like 50% of the board is environmental pieces, and 50% of the board is actual. 50% of that center part is actual playable area, which is not a lot for a TCG type of game. You definitely want to give a lot more real estate to the cards and where the minions will be, and we'll get to see that as we go through the evolutionary process of RTLOL. So let's go to the next part. And I guess at this point, we start entering pre-production. So the last couple of images, we went through like concept and design, just exploring ideas. And this pre-pro phase is more about, I guess, like figuring out what things will look like, and maybe get a sense of timeframes, and try to work out all the things that we need to do to line us up for a production phase. So if we hop over to the next one, and this is something that Milkable did for us. So looks like they've taken those designs, and they're working in Cinema 4D. So it's looking a lot better. And we've got like the hero portraits there. We've got the gem trays there. I believe that other circle thing near the hero portrait was like an ability type thing. We've got the nuclear Bitcoin power plant is there, and this is like a very early stage of that, I guess, that refinement process, and this board will end up going into the promo trailer. So a lot of solving additional problems, visual problems. Like, we can now see that there's more real estate dedicated to the game board. If I were to glance at it, I'd say it's like more like, there's 80% game board now and about 20%, environmental pieces, which is a lot more ideal. And I think, yeah, let's hop over to the next one. Okay, so a little bit more of an update from Milkable. We've got these rainbow gems here in the on the left side of the board. Maybe Arkin, you'd have a better idea of what those were supposed to be.
Which thing? Sorry.
The
big
colored
gems.
rainbow.
Okay. Yeah. So this is interesting. This is from a really old design for the game, where instead of staking the cards and generating a gem of the same color, you would play like the basic versions of a card. So let's say the centaur here. You play a centaur and it activates your yellow gem. And then if you play another, like a mid-powered yellow card, it supercharges it, and that allows you to play the legendaries. We deviated from that. I think it was Marty who came up with the idea of just staking the cards for gems instead. And that's why this concept got, I guess, abandoned from there. But it's interesting. We've still got the art for that version of the game.
Yeah, and I guess that's great to actually see that process, right? That was previously how we were going to use mana gems, but we introduced the concept of staking, which I love. Like, I think it's a great mechanic. It's unique to us. I'd love to know from Marty, like, where you got that idea from.
Yeah, it's a combination, I guess, of the way a few different TCGs work. There's a bit of inspiration from the old Dragon Ball Z TCG that would have come out late 90s, early 2000s, where you kind of had like basically any card in your hand could be sort of like it had like an ability, but you could kind of also just spend it as like a generic like power card to like boost a different card sort of thing. So I kind of like the idea of like cards having just this generic additional value. And then like the way we ended up doing staking specifically was kind of taking that and then looking at like the mana system, say in Magic the Gathering, where we knew we needed a way to support the 7 different colors in RTLOL. And you wanted it to be done in a way that's both rewards players with consistency if they choose to play like a 1 or 2 color deck, but enables players if they choose to try and run a 7 color deck. So you can obviously see at the moment, like, the current meta pre 7 Deadly Sins, some people are running like up to 7 colors and like elementals and stuff like that. But there's also people running like, red, yellow, mono, blue, stuff like that. So the system works pretty well for that. Originally, we had a design where you started with many more cards in your hand, and then you obviously would stake a card to get a gem of that color. And Chris, I'm pretty sure it was you that came up with the change where we would have less cards, but when you staked a card, you drew in response, so that staking didn't actually give you a negative card advantage, and it was more of a filtering mechanic as well. So yeah, just an interesting way of trying to balance out that different color design compared to a lot of other TCGs.
Yeah, awesome. I love it. Something else I'd like to point out is that, yeah, we can see the early designs of the card frames here. This is one of the first card frame designs, and I believe that made it to the trailer. But yeah, as you'll see, we will iterate on that a lot, and we are still iterating on it. Yeah, there's always areas to improve, and it's trying to make a cohesive game that plays well and looks well and sounds well. So lots of refinement. Okay, so yeah, now we're moving into a little bit of a animation. This is one of the sequences in the promo trailer, and yeah, it's coming alive now. We animation effects does a great job at kind of bringing the concept to life. We've got some effects over on the tree side of the board, very minor things, but it's one of those things that if it's not there, it something will feel missing. And it's just a lot of little small things that make the game feel alive. Like I like in the Ethereum side of the city, you've got the effects on the Bitcoin power plant, and again, it's very minor. There's very like kind of minor smoke type animation, but it helps bring the game board alive. As well as the portal, you've got this slight electrical animation going around the rings of the portal, and it's looking really cool. And I think Milkable did a great job on this. It really helps the team kind of like visualize the board, the game, and again, we're iterating here. We're looking to add things to the game, try things out, see what works, and move the ball forward.
Also, just on the Milkable front. So this was, as Hitbox mentioned, this was part of the game trailer that I think dropped in December of 21. We are in the process of working with Milkable on updating that game trailer to include some up-to-date game footage now. So stay tuned for that. We should be dropping it relatively soon. It's the same core game trailer, but just because the game has evolved so much from what you can see here in terms of the gameplay, we just wanted to add some new gameplay footage and get a few of the bits and pieces updated, the Raini Studios logo. So yeah, stay tuned.
One of the
oh, go on.
Go on. No, so you go.
I was just going to quickly say, like, what I love about that is that for a long time, the stuff that Milkable did was like our art Bible. We were looking at that promo trailer, and we were like, let's make it, let's get as close to the promo trailer as possible. We were A/Bing, so we were pressing our eyes right up to the pixels and trying to get things as close as possible to the trailer. And at some point later, you'll see we kind of we kind of take the visual aesthetics and we kind of just run with it. And now we need to go update the promo trailer because it's looking a lot different since this stage of where of the game. And so yeah, we're just looking to go back and update things. Were you wanting to say something, Alcatraz?
I was just going to say, one of the cool things you can see, even back here, we were looking at a design where the minions had this sort of like angular approach. I won't go into too much detail as to why we had that originally. We got rid of it just because it obviously having the minions straight is much cleaner and easier to read. But you'll actually see some mechanics coming through in set 3 design that was inspired, and we'd at least discussed and started thinking about even right back at this stage here. So just like I always find that interesting when I look at like how far in advance a lot of design decisions, or how far in the past, I guess, some design decisions are made. and then obviously over time we actually get to realize those different things. But yeah, if you think back to this sort of angular like layout of minions, and then when you start seeing some of the cards that will be coming through in set 3, there's a lot of overlap there in terms of design. So yeah, pretty cool.
Just guys, just while you're talking about the evolution of the game and everything, Ash is just asking, it seems like the cards were already designed, the art, before the concept of the game itself. I mean, how many of the cards did you have in mind before you put the game itself together?
I'll take this one. So yeah, basically we had the Genesis drop pretty much all done in terms of the artwork and the names for the cards. And then we created the full design of the game. We still had like a concept for what we wanted to build for the game, but it was pretty high level at that stage when we did the Genesis cards. Before we did the second edition cards, we had the full design of the game implemented. And then all we had to do was really add the stats and abilities to the Genesis cards that we had the art and names for. And again, we had a rough idea of what that would look like, but we were still pretty flexible between the Genesis and second edition cards getting finalized.
Nice.
One of the really interesting things I remember from that, because obviously we designed Genesis first, then we designed what is set 2 seasons, sort of after that. But because we had both sets like implemented, ready to go when we went into like closed alpha. Most of our players have only ever really experienced the meta of RTLOL with both Genesis and seasons both together. Whereas at least internally, we actually got to playtest like the Genesis meta, which actually, if you go, I mean, you can even jump into the client now and just filter by Genesis and base cards. Yeah, it actually plays out quite interesting. And I mean, if there's interest from the community, let us know. And maybe at some point down the road, we'll run like a fun tournament of like Genesis only meta, just to give people a chance to try that out, to see what the game's like without cards like When Lambo or Recursive Reality.
That sounds like a lot of fun. All right, guys, let's hop over to the next one. Okay, cool. So looks like we are heading in production. Yeah, I suppose the Milkable promo trailer sort of wraps up like kind of pre-production. We have a really good idea of what the game board should look and feel like, and now we start entering production and we start implementing those things. And production usually looks like this. Everything's super gray boxy. Everything's bare bones. We've imported the board into the game. We've set up a basic camera, and we're now building all of that great looking stuff inside of Unity. And a thing about making games is that you've got to make things perform well. Whereas in kind of like film and TV, we can just throw polygons, lots of polygons and textures. We can make things look really good because there's no device that it's bound to. It just it's essentially playing a video. Whereas games need to run on devices. They need to perform well. And so at this stage, we are also looking at optimizing all of our art assets so that the game can run performantly. So this is a bit of a jump from the previous gray box, but all that's really going on here is that we are bringing in all the textures and materials that we received in the source files from the Milkable promo trailer, and we've just got some basic lighting. I think it's just like one directional light with all the textures and some basic material setup. So yeah, we're we're slowly moving the ball along. One thing I'd point out is that the forest on the left here, like I remember working on this, and the tree leaves, although they looked really great in the promo trailer, there's a lot of dense geometry in those tree leaves. And so for anyone that makes games, like you'll know that that's just a lot of geometry. And so we're looking at, we're always looking at trying to optimize where we can.
Huge, like, hats off to the team, because when we had like those trees there, we were not only trying to get it to run performantly, we were trying to get it to run performantly on WebGL. Because this obviously is before like our standalone days. So this was like getting all this to run in a WebGL environment on different browsers, on different hardware was a very interesting challenge the team had to tackle there.
That brings a huge smile to my face because I don't know if it's like a smile of joy or just a bunch of nightmares. Trying to, and we did. We got the game working well on WebGL, and yeah, again, huge hats off to the team. It's a huge collaborative effort to get that working. But yeah, there was a few question marks around at that time. But yeah, I'm super happy that we got it working on WebGL. I totally forget that was part of the process.
Yeah, making a modern game running 2 gigs of memory at the sort of at the quality standard we were shooting for was it was a very interesting challenge.
Yeah. All right. So we're making a little bit more progress on the game. Yeah, I've got some better lighting, some better shadows. You'll notice that in the gem tray, we've got placeholders for the actual gems. We were just using colors at the time. At this point of the game, the gems didn't even shuffle. We just had little counters on top of the on the colored squares. But yeah, again, this is a production phase. Everything we're building at this stage, and this is what building looks like. Really basic, but it's a iterative process.
I was going to say, I think you're about to talk about, because you just pointed the mouse at it. For people that maybe haven't worked in film or games before, can you explain what those two spheres are on the left-hand side of the screen?
Yeah, so they're just like chrome and metallic balls, and they help me understand how lighting reflects in the environment. It helps me understand how like a metal should look in the environment, how metal / specular should look, and it helps me understand how like a more matte gray or matte color should look. So I'm using these gray balls, gray and metallic balls as a point of reference for how light should kind of bounce off materials. But yeah, thanks for pointing that out. Let's hop over to the next one. And here we've got here we got Satoshi Nakamoto. So this is one of the early passes of the Satoshi Nakamoto OPA. Here, I remember like this was a bit tricky to do because we're pulling the high-res assets from the trailer, heavily optimizing them and getting them to work in game. So super basic pass. It's yeah, you know what it looks like today because we've got the building kind of emerging from the ground. But yeah, at once upon a time ago, it looked like this, and I think at this stage it was exciting because we get to see something in the game. We've also got some gems at the bottom there. I don't know if these were like kind of static or these were dynamically working. I might have just set them up just to give a sense of what they may look like. And on the left here, you can see we even had a bit of tree movement. We had, sorry, a little bit of leaf movement. Again, trying to bring the game board alive. We did actually remove the animation of the leaves because of WebGL. But now that we're not on WebGL, yeah, we should certainly look at kind of bringing back that slight tree leaf animation back.
You should throw a ticket on the board for our lead artist to look at that, I think.
Yeah, get him.
Yeah. I don't think Satoshi ever cost 2 yellow, 2 blue, and 2 red at any point. So I'm pretty sure they're just placeholders.
Yeah, fair point.
Yeah.
Should I speed through the rest of this? Like, given that I think we've got 15 minutes left, or
I have no idea how much more there is, but yeah, you got roughly 15, I'd say, if we want to.
Yeah. All right.
Try to keep the AMAs to the hour.
Yeah, a little bit more. Like, here's a bit of a glimpse into what we do to the characters. So, man, those hands look super janky. But yeah, we're grabbing the assets from the Milkable trailer, and we are just quickly wrapping them to bones. For something like an OPA, we might not spend the same amount of time that we would do on like a film shot where we're critiquing every frame. But here, what we're looking at doing is just trying to get the overall impression right, and then get that in the game as soon as we can to kind of assess how it looks from the game camera. What do we have here? Okay, so yeah, a bit more progress on the game. We've got our first look at the Quantum Rug OPA, which our technical artist did, and I think he did an absolute great job on that. And he's done a bunch of our OPAs, which look super great. What else? We've got better lighting in this iteration. Yeah, and things are moving along. Yeah, and an update on the card frames. So at this point, we were looking at exploring new frame designs, and this is just an early iteration of that. Cool. So here we're looking at some card border highlight effects. Super simple, like conceptually, just a scrolling texture, a few scrolling textures overlaid one another that kind of creates this organic patterny type effect. So we're essentially, animating textures in UV space overlaid one another, and it creates this kind of fiery, kind of organic type effect. And at this stage, we're also talking about holographic effects. I didn't have any examples to show today, but yeah, that's something that we would love to get in for the future.
If you just go back to that previous one just for one tick.
Yep.
I love how, like, obviously these are 3 cards that are in the game, but you can actually look like Money Print didn't change. Gained 2 green gems, although they're depleted now. Werewolf used to be had an ability called Berserk, which obviously he's not in the game. And Satoshi Stacker just is that return a random opponent's minion to their hand. Yeah, so very different to what the current live versions of the cards are, because obviously this was still very early in design, so a lot of different abilities and stuff like that as we were testing things out. And I think that was also that was the camera animation that we had at the start of the multiplayer game. I don't think that's there anymore. You can still start like that.
Yeah, we had that zoom in camera tween just as you entered the game.
I coded that. I thought that was really cool.
You set that up. The only reason it disappeared is because we had the versus screen and we had a bunch of other screens, and so at that time it was great. Kind of like made you feel like you're diving into the game.
Yeah.
But then as we introduced the other mechanics, it got removed.
Oh, anyway, yeah, cool.
So yeah, next one. And I think we can clearly see like that V-shape card setup that you were talking about, Alcatraz. That kind of more angular card layout, which we obviously don't have anymore. We've got some, yeah, we've. Oh man, I'm getting excited now. So at this part of the development process, we were really excited just to have like cards coming out of the deck. Because before that, yeah, I mean, even I think for a long time we might have been working with just like very gray box type placeholdery type cards. So just to have cards in the game made a huge difference to like testing the game on our side and just working on the development side of things.
I'm pretty sure this was also before. I don't think spells had been implemented at this point. So like everything in the game was a minion. Even the spell cards were like minions. It was like just this
Yeah.
weird stage of development.
Yeah, it's it's great to kind of go back in time. All right, so what do we have here? Hey, so Alcatraz, at one point you mentioned having a graveyard because it would open up a world of design, and so this was one of the earlier ideas that we had for graveyards. We were thinking of yeah, what would a graveyard look like in the metaverse? So it's a tombstone with a LCD screen, and that would animate. Yeah, so we were exploring that for a bit.
Yeah, it's such an interesting part of design of trying to balance out adding depth and complexity to a game, but keeping it open and accessible. It's such a fine line to sort of walk. But yeah, hopefully, I mean, I'm pretty sure we've walked the line well so far, and we'll keep doing so. But yeah, I mean, important to note that may be a mechanic that comes back at some point in the future. It's not something that is necessarily written off, but yeah, if we did, it would most likely there would be like a set designed around it. We'd probably have like an undead theme or something like that, or yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
anyway.
really cool.
Yeah.
What do we have here? I mean, I think I've got a character in the game, so I think this is maybe a bit of a scale reference for OPAs. Just making sure that the OPAs feel right on the board, and scale feels right. Just quickly jumping onto this one. For a moment in the game development process, we were evaluating how everything fitted on the board, and so for a moment we shifted the game camera. So it's a lot more top down, and we were moving away from that V shape to that V shaped card setup to the card setup that we have now. But yeah, as you can see, like it kind of changed the whole layout. Just a slight camera movement changes it quite significantly. But I'm glad that we stuck with what we have now. I feel like it has a lot more depth, and I think this camera position suffers from the early mock-up that we looked at earlier. Whereas like I feel like it makes you feel like you're falling into the board versus like kind of sitting down at the board. Oh yeah, we have some mock-ups here of the early stages of the Hydra Opa. So I just wanted to kind of throw these in just to show you when building an Opa, what do they look like? Also, I'll just point out that we can see Alcatraz's PFP here in the
Yeah, when you need placeholder art for something, because the game will crash if there's just no like sprite set somewhere, and you're like, what have I got just lying around my computer? And yeah, obviously had that image.
Yeah, I love that there's that head is just poking up from the bottom of the screen. Alcatraz is always watching. But yeah, early stages of the Hydra Opa, looking super basic at the moment, but we're going back and forth over what it should look like, and just throwing basic forms out there and just trying to visualize things. And so now we've improved that. We've iterated on the forms, refined the flow of movement a little bit more, and we've added a few more effects. And at one stage, we were talking about these Dragon Ball Z type super emission-y, greeny type dragons coming out, but we didn't end up going for this. I think it drew your attention too much, and I think we've also got to consider how this looks in context with cards in play. So a lot of the times, we make the art, but we've got to be super mindful about how it looks. In context.
Probably also just worth mentioning there, like looking at the iteration of the Hydra there over time, and obviously the final Hydra is different again. Just the level of attention to detail and care that goes into like every aspect of the game. Like this is an OPA, not even for like a legendary card, just I think it's uncommon or rare. I think it's rare. But yeah, just obviously that attention to detail and that desire to make sure that anything we put out there is at that super high quality bar. I really do believe is what will set RTLOL apart from a lot of other potential competitors.
Yeah, and just to quickly add on to that, one thing about the Hydra OPA is you'll notice that the flow of movement here is very angular. Like when it turns, it's a really sharp turn. So actually making that a lot smoother was a lot trickier than we'd expected. So getting it from this very angled type animation to something where it's a lot more curvy and flowy was a bit tricky to do. But I think the final outcome turned out great.
Especially because you've got to remember that this isn't just a straight animation, because depending on where the card is on the board, and if it's your side or the opponent's side, it's a different motion for every single possible position. So
yeah, exactly.
Super cool.
So right now we're seeing that the Hydra come out from the center of the board, but we need to make sure that these OPAs work all over the board. So if this card were to be placed on the very right or the very left, how does that look? And it should still work and perform well. So yeah, there's a lot that goes into just even the mechanics of the OPA. And our green Dragon Ball Z Hydras. What do we have here? I think. Oh, okay, cool. So I threw this in because we are now starting to see, I think, more card art in our cards. We still have a couple of when you see these white cards, that's because we were missing the card art. But at this point of the game, we're starting to get more of the card art in the game. And we've also updated the frames as well. So these were the frames that we used for the live demo, a slight improvement from what we had before. Ooh. So we got some sound here. This is a live demo, I think. Or maybe this is part of the part of the workings on the live demo. I'll just point out that at this point we've introduced a versus screen, and adding all the elements that you see in the game at the moment. And just wanted to quickly show this. This was like the early stages of the menu. So we had you remember this one?
Yeah, I built this screen.
Yeah, early stages. So just a splash screen in the background and some 2D assets, but it's what we had at the time, and it did the job that we needed it to do. And from there, again, it's a lot of iteration. Cool. So now we're kind of just stepping through the process of the menus and the UI. I'm just going to mute this a bit. But yeah, this was one of the earlier designs of the deck editor. We were going for more of a gold theme for the deck editor, but as you know, we'll kind of refine that and kind of bring it more in line with what we think the deck editor should feel like. Some updates here to the deck editor. Again, yeah, bringing it more in theme with our RTLOL brand. And I'm thinking, yeah, it's looking, it's a nice step up. Early stages of the main menu. So this is what our buttons look like before we had any animations or anything on the buttons. So yeah, super rudimentary at the moment, but we're now stepping from a 2D menu into a more 3D menu. And yeah, and keep in mind, this was all working in WebGL. So amazing that we had this going on WebGL. Now we're seeing a little bit more animations on the game button menus. The game menu has been updated a lot more as well. This is quite reflective of what we have today, right? We have you can choose your hero, and that was introduced not too long ago, like late last year or sometime. And so we're incorporating that into the menus as well. And mind you, for everyone that's watching, yeah, we are working on this as well. There's a lot that I'd love to do to refine the menus just to make it more cohesive and feel like a well-polished game. This is a early mock-up of the crypto lockup OPA. So this is just the portal side of things. This was just a bit of a demo of what the portal could look like. And so we only see the crypto lockup portal just for like a second or two, but there's a lot going on here in terms of like the technical VFX to make something look like this. There's a lot of distortion going on, a lot of UV animation, some cool lights, some cool VFX.
I always love seeing, for any game, I love seeing it when it's like in the editor and stuff like that, when you get to see it from a perspective you never see in the game itself.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, like this is what the game board looks like. Obviously, when you're able to like move a camera around and zoom down, you can see obviously like the hard edge at the end there, in the background, because obviously we know where the camera will be looking, so we don't need to render anything beyond that. But yeah, it's always super fun to look like that. And if you go, like, you obviously can't because this is a video, but if you went over and looked like behind the buildings, like all the back of the buildings, half of them just there's nothing there. Because again, we know that the camera is never going to see that, so why waste pixels and polygons?
Yeah, great thing to point out. We won't add anything into the game that's not being seen. So like if you look at the trees on the left, like a lot of those tree leaves don't even have branches. They're just kind of floating on top of like some branch type geometry. Anything that you can't see, we won't put in, because that hinders performance. So this is part of that optimization process, and as Alcatraz pointed out, you can see the hard edge of the game board, where the ground plane ends, and then you've got the skybox, the background in the back there. Early concepts of the portal. If we just take a step back here, we're talking about we need to show a different state between a open portal and a closed portal, just so it's more obvious when you can't stake. And so once we kind of get that brief, we talk about how that should look like and explore blockouts and explore ideas. So this is just an early stage of that. And then as we move along, we refine the idea and think about better ways that could fit to meet that brief, which is to close the portal. And here we're just adding a little bit more rotation so that the portal stones feel like they're floating. The main thing we wanted to do here was we wanted to close the portal and make the portal feel like kind of magical. So that's why we had the stones kind of floating up into place.
And again, even that, like something that so many other games would just like turn off the portal animation or the like the VFX and call it a day. And here we've got multiple different like full animated renders of different options that we were sort of investigating and going through just to work out what actually, again, hits that bar of quality that we're striving for.
Yeah, we've actually got a number of these type of portal closed variant animation states.
I mean, our players may even get to see some whole new portal states very soon as well.
Yeah. Stay tuned.
Yeah.
Quick glimpse at the Phoenix OPA, similar to what we were looking at before with the crypto lockup. This is us just getting the asset in game, layering over some shaders and materials, and investigating kind of how it looks before we go forward and implement animations. What do we have here? Oh yeah, okay, so yeah, moving along with that OPA process in terms of kind of getting a shader in and then adding animations. You'll notice that here there's a lot more detail in the shader, which it looks really, really cool here. But we always have to keep in mind, like, how does things look in the game view? And as much as that previous shader looked really cool here, in a game view here, it would just look too noisy. There'd be too much information. So we want to simplify just so it reads better. And here we're introducing target motions. So just a big theme in the studio is like, how do we add more cause and effect? How do we provide players more feedback so that they understand, what's going on? And here we're talking about trails that emit from the source card to the target card, so that we can clearly see that the Minotaur here is being healed or is gaining HP from those source cards. And I think that wraps up everything, because we're back at concept and design. But yeah, that's kind of part of the evolutionary process of RTLOL. There's so much more that we could go into, and there's a whole bunch of stuff that we're working on now to improve it further. But yeah, thanks for bearing with me and sitting through that. I hope everyone enjoyed it. And yeah, I guess I might hand it back over to the other guys.
Yeah, I know that was really cool for myself, because that was like kind of like a trip down memory lane, which was very, very cool.
I like the view from the game board. Like, there were two I guess sequences in the Phoenix one in particular, because while you're scrolling around, you can see like the hand hovering in the sky and everything. It's just really cool to see. Yeah, like Marty was saying, the game from a completely different perspective than we usually be able to see. That was really cool. But yeah, I appreciated the whole presentation, Hitbox. Thanks for that.
Yeah, me too. Sorry, just from a community perspective, I mean, you're sitting there on the other side of Telegram or something saying, when's the game coming out? But you got no clue as to the complexity and the amount of time it would take just to do even the simplest of things in the game. But that was a fantastic, Hitbox. Thanks very much for that, mate.
Yeah, no problems. And again, yeah, a huge team effort. Today was more from a kind of art perspective, potentially one day you guys can get a couple of the devs on board, because yeah, that's a whole nother part of the game dev process.
Just for a bit of just quick bonus fun, I know there's a few last minute questions there coming through as well. I'm just going to share my screen if this will work. Hopefully this works. Oh, that. Yeah, so this is, I know I've shown this a few times in like Telegram and stuff like that, but yeah, this is what the game looks like when you're able to like, move around and stuff like that. Interestingly, you'll note here that we don't render like the back of like your opponent's cards. That information, like as far as like a player is concerned, like this is the player's hand up here, sort of floating there. But the actual like this information when you're like a multiplayer game, your client doesn't actually know what those cards are. So like literally nothing gets rendered there. So you can see like there's just this big hole under the portal. The portals are only rendered one-sided. So if you look at it from this side, they're empty because again you can never see the back. Also the hero portraits. What else? We can dive into the portals. So you got like the.
Are you in Unity there? What are you looking at there? What's that viewer?
This is Unity. So let me
Unity,
actually make that a
okay.
little bit. Yep, this is the actual like what we use to make the game.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you got the cool fire effects there.
It's fun. Like as you're like inside the portal, it's almost like an FPS type environment. Like I could see corridors running, inside the portal there as you're kind of going through the channels. Yeah, it could just be like a large FPS environment.
Yeah,
Maybe that's the next game we need to make then, the FPS version of RTLOL on the Game Boy.
Yeah, imagine having like a little character running around here.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, yeah, this building is like, nothing on the inside, and yeah, like it's hovering off the ground because again, like you're never going to see that from the camera perspective. So why draw it? There's just gaps here. Except, sorry if that ruins the magic for anyone, but yeah, like if I mouse over the cards there, you can see there that we actually render the cards are physically in world space, what we call world space. But then I don't know how well this shows on like the little preview there, but the preview versions are obviously just sort of sitting there like in UI space there like that.
Just to reiterate, it's not just that we can't be bothered drawing it. It's also that if we were drawing all these things that are never displayed, it's going to affect, like Hitbox said, it's going to affect your performance. So your FPS is going to drop. It's going to take longer to load. It's a worse experience all around if we were to draw things that aren't actually ever going to be seen.
That's really cool. I've never seen the Elon OPA played in scene view. Like I've never actually seen what happens to the rockets in scene view.
So there you go. Kind of ruin the surprise for everyone. The original rockets just disappear, and we bring new ones in that actually will hit the targets.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, what else can I do? I can do like a on stake effect. That's airdrop, isn't it? Yeah, cool. Actually, so let me. Oh, and the gems are obviously like super flat, like.
Yeah, they're just 2D textures. They look, they kind of look 3D from the game view, but they're just
the camera up
textures.
Like there. I'll play airdrop. So yeah, cool. There you go. Little sneak peek under the hood.
Love it.
Cool. So yeah, we've gone over time a little bit, but yeah, I've seen like a few last minute questions in. So yeah, Draz, if you want to just quickly run us through those, we'll quickly answer those. Any that might be longer answers we might leave to next week's AMA, but I'm not seeing any longer answers there.
Yeah, sure. Just a question from Daniel Wachalski. Would you consider using a bigger deck for the game, for example, 50 cards and having a higher hero power?
Maybe is the answer I would give there. At the moment, the game is specifically designed around 40 cards in your deck keeping in mind that we say 40 cards, but really we designed for both 40 and for 28, or 29, I guess technically, because we assume that you're going to stake up to 11 cards during a standard game. And unless you're using like wizards or hodl and stuff like that, those are 11 staked cards that have come out of your deck. And obviously things like minion power and toughness and those sort of things are all geared around that concept of 420 health. So yeah, we could definitely look at stuff like that. Maybe a different game mode, or maybe I've seen some other games do where maybe you have a minion that has an ability that lets you have more cards in your deck. But yeah, at this stage, the core game is very much designed around that 40 card deck, 420 health concept.
Also, I would say that we've discussed a few times because it's come up the option of including a higher maximum deck size, so not requiring everyone to do 40 cards, just having that as the minimum. So in this example, you could do like a min 40, max 50 card deck. However, that's possible in Magic the Gathering Arena and several other card games. So if you check how that evolves at like a competitive level, pretty much all of the best decks use the minimum amount of cards required for the deck because it makes them more consistent. It's super rare to see any decks that have more than the minimum number. There are some novelties, there are some specific combos, but it enabling that if we're trying to push RTLOL into becoming like a well-balanced, highly competitive online game, it's not necessarily going to open up a lot more options. So yeah, I would just add that comment.
Okay, cool. Ash's question there, do you feel trapped by the early cards, was just when you guys were talking about having designed the Genesis set, before the game mechanics and all that sort of thing. Did designing the cards and the ones you picked make you feel trapped in any way?
It's a good question. I think I would say, first of all, that like when we designed the cards, we had a high level idea of what sort of game we would be making, and we tried to design the art and the names and everything in a way that left as much design space open as possible. So you'll notice in the Genesis set, there's basically this same number of cards of each color. Each color has the same number of each rarity. I think there was like one promo card, Satoshi Stacker, that kind of was like a last minute addition. But other than that, it was all fairly balanced and left a lot of design space open. So I would say it's not like having a blank canvas. It's like having like a rough sketch that you can still fit to the game mode. So if anything, I think it actually acted as a benefit because when you have that blank canvas of I can design anything at all, then it's really hard to commit to something and actually just start moving towards getting a proper playable game out. Whereas at least having those 50 cards gave us, okay, so here's our like train tracks or whatever. Let's fill in the gaps and make whatever makes sense. And then whenever there were like colors that was kind of lacking, let's say there was, one or two colors had a spell or two each, and then some colors didn't have any spells, then in the second edition, we could just add more spells for those colors that didn't have any. So you could, first of all, you can design the cards around what makes sense. And secondly, you can supplement what is missing for balance via future sets. So I think it was a good thing. I don't know, Alcatraz, if you have any thoughts on that?
I was going to say it's actually a relatively common design practice, the way that like Genesis was designed. If you guys want me to talk about it in a bit more detail, I won't do it now, but maybe next week if you want me to talk about the difference between like top-down design and bottom-up design, might be interesting because yeah, Genesis and Seven Deadly Sins very much top-down design, whereas Set 3 is the polar opposite. It is bottom-up design. Then yeah, happy to go into that a little bit and talk about that from a design perspective.
Yeah, that sounds cool.
And I mean, maybe if we do that, maybe we might even leak one of the third edition cards, maybe.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Sounds good. Link C Nil just basically just asking, when is the official game release now?
We're targeting late Q2, so I would expect probably sometime in June if all goes to plan. yeah, I mean the core game itself is pretty much ready. We're adding in the 7 deadly sins; they're almost done. Then there's only a handful of promo cards. But the main thing we're working on now is just all those little elements that make it a really great experience for a player, not just on their first play, but give them reasons to keep coming back and playing the game. So even beyond the play and earn layer of the game, I think it's just really important to have that feeling of progression and that feeling that winning a game actually means something. So that's where we're revamping the MMR to an ELO system, and we're building a lot of tools that will allow you to progress and unlock things and do bits and pieces like that. That's pretty much the main part that we're focusing on now. But we've made a lot of progress on that, and yeah, we're still looking like we're on track for late Q2 full game launch.
Awesome. Ash's last question. BTC dropped 1,000 during the AMA. Are the devs responsible?
Yes.
We want to dissuade you from buying Bitcoin. Everyone just buy Raini.
All right, sounds good. That's all the questions, guys. Thanks very much for that. Fantastic.
Awesome. Well, yeah, that's pretty much it. Not our longest AMA, but we've got to get these down in time. But yeah, big thanks obviously to Hitbox for putting that all together for us. It was awesome to get a chance to go through some of the art history of RTLOL. There was a lot of stuff there that even I hadn't seen. So yeah, very, very cool to see that. Yeah, thanks Chris for joining us. Hopefully you're feeling better soon. Draz, obviously, on behalf of the whole community, thank you so much for helping us to organize these and make sure we get all the questions and make sure that, obviously for these AMAs, we're giving value back to our community, which is the whole reason why we do it. The reason why they're here and not on like a Twitter space or something is this isn't a marketing exercise for us. This is literally just a chance for us to share with our community and directly answer questions.
Fantastic. Thank you, guys.
Cool. Have a great day, everyone. And we'll catch you around the Rainiverse.
See you, everyone. Bye.
Cheers.